They locked her before. Why was everything so practiced? What aren't we seeing?
The moment the lights went out, my daughter stopped screaming. That's the part I can't explain. You'd think the silence would feel like relief, right? Like maybe she calmed down, maybe she just needed a minute. No, it didn't feel like relief. It felt wrong. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Like something had just crossed a line you can't uncross. I was standing at the top of the basement stairs when it happened, phone in my hand, heart racing, but I wasn't moving. Why wasn't I moving? That's the question I keep asking myself. Because just seconds before that, my mom, Diane Harris, 52 years old, calm as ever, had grabbed my 10-year-old daughter, Maya, by the arm and shoved her into the basement. Not dragged, not yelled, just controlled, intentional, like she'd done it before. The door slammed shut so hard the walls shook. And then, click, that sound. If you've ever heard a lock turn when it shouldn't, you know exactly what I mean. It echoes longer than it's supposed to. It lingers. Just for a bit, my mom said. Just like that. Casual, almost bored, like she was talking about putting something in the oven, not locking a child in a basement. Not my child. And then she reached over and flipped the light switch. Darkness swallowed everything below. Immediately, Maya's voice came through the door. Mom, not screaming yet, just confused, just trying to understand what was happening. I should have moved right then. I should have grabbed the handle, unlocked it, pulled her out, said, "What are you doing?" But I didn't. I stood there, frozen, because something about the way my parents were acting didn't feel like a mistake. It felt normal to them. Let me explain something. My name is Alyssa Harris. I'm 24. And a few months ago, I did something I swore I would never do again. I moved back into my parents' house, not because I wanted to, because I had to. Rent went up, my hours got cut, and suddenly it was either swallow my pride or risk not having a place for me and Maya. So I chose what I thought was the safer option, what any parent would choose, or at least what I told myself was safe. At first, it was fine. That's the part that messes with your head later. Because nothing starts out obvious. There's no big warning sign. No moment where someone says, hey, this is gonna go wrong. It's small things, tiny shifts. Things you explain away because it's easier than facing what they might mean. Maya, she's 10. She's always been sensitive, not in a bad way, just aware. She notices things other people miss. She hates the dark, always has. Even when she was little, she'd sleep with a nightlight, the TV on low, anything to keep shadows from taking over the room. So when I heard her voice from behind that door, Mom, it's too dark, it hit something deep, something immediate, something protective. And still, I didn't move. Why? Because I was watching my mom, and she wasn't reacting. She just walked back to the table, sat down, picked up her fork, like nothing had happened. My dad, Robert, 55, didn't even look up. That might have been worse. At least anger would have made sense. At least yelling would have made sense. But this calm, rehearsed silence, that's what made my stomach drop. From behind the door, Maya's voice got smaller. Mom, I don't like it. A pause. Then quieter. Please. And that's when something inside me started to shift. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just enough. Enough to make me reach into my pocket. Enough to make me pull out my phone. but not enough to make a scene. Not yet. Because deep down, a thought had already started forming. One I didn't want to say out loud. What if this wasn't the first time? I swallowed, forced my voice to stay steady. Okay, I said, just one word. And even as I said it, it tasted wrong. Like I was agreeing to something I didn't understand. Like I was buying myself time. I turned slightly away from them, unlocked my phone. My fingers hesitated over the screen. Who do you call in a moment like that? Who do you trust when the problem is inside your own house? Behind me, I could still hear her, soft now, too soft. And that silence from my parents, it was pressing in on me. Like if I didn't do something right, then this would just become normal. Another rule, another lesson. Another thing no one talks about, so I made a choice, not loud, not obvious, but it would change everything that came next. I hit call, raised the phone slowly to my ear, and when the line connected, I whispered, I need you to stay on the line. A pause, and just listen, because I had a feeling whatever was happening in that house was bigger than this moment, and I needed someone else to hear it before I convinced myself it wasn't real. Looking back, the signs were there long before that night. Have you ever ignored something because it was easier than dealing with it? Because that's exactly what I did. And once you see it clearly, once everything lines up, you don't get to unsee it. When Maya and I first moved into my parents' house, I told myself it was temporary. A few months, maybe 6, just enough time to get back on my feet. And at first, it almost felt stable, predictable. My mom handled groceries. My dad kept to himself. The house ran on this quiet, rigid routine that hadn't changed since I was a kid. And that should have been my first warning. Because nothing had changed. Not really. Dinner's at 6, my mom told us the first night. Not around 6. Not whenever you're ready. 6, sharp. And when Maya came downstairs at 6, 7, the look my mom gave her, it wasn't just annoyance. It was correction. We eat together in this house, Diane said flatly. Maya froze for a second, then nodded quickly. Sorry. And that should have been the end of it. Right? A small moment, a simple rule, except it didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, the rules kept stacking. Bedtime at 8:30, no snacks after dinner, no phones at the table, no talking back. And again, none of that sounds crazy on its own. That's how I justified it. She's just being strict. She helped raise me. I turned out fine. But the way she enforced those rules, that's where things started to feel off. Sit up straight. Answer properly. Look at me when I'm speaking to you. Every correction came fast. Sharp. Like Maya was constantly being evaluated, graded. And my dad, he didn't interrupt, didn't soften it. He just sat there eating, occasionally nodding like this was completely normal. At first, Maya tried to adjust. She really did. I could see it. The way she'd pause before speaking like she was rehearsing the right version of her words. The way she'd glance at me before answering my mom like she needed confirmation she wasn't about to mess up. And that hit me harder than I expected because I recognized it. That same hesitation, that same carefulness, I used to do that too. But I told myself something important. It's different now. I'm here. I can step in if it goes too far. Except I didn't. One night, about 3 weeks in, I noticed something strange. It was quiet. Too quiet. You know that kind of silence? The kind that makes you stop what you're doing? I was in the kitchen, rinsing dishes. Where's Maya? I asked. No answer. My mom didn't even look up. She's calming down, she said. Just like that. Something about those words made my chest tighten. Calming down where? And that's when my mom finally glanced at me. Then, casually, the basement. I don't know why, but my stomach dropped instantly. Maybe it was the way she said it, like it didn't require explanation. Like it was obvious. I walked over to the basement door slowly. The light above it flickered slightly, same as always. That bulb had been unreliable since I was a kid. I remember a lot about that basement. Things I hadn't thought about in years. I opened the door halfway, and there she was, Maya, sitting on the bottom step, not crying, not screaming, just sitting there, small, still. Maya, I said softly. She looked up at me immediately, and the relief on her face, it was instant, like she'd been holding her breath. Mom, she stood up quickly and walked toward me, not running, but fast enough to tell me everything I needed to know. What happened? I asked. She hesitated. Just for a second. Then, Grandma said I needed to sit there until I felt better. Felt better from what? She hadn't been upset when I last saw her. I looked back toward the kitchen. My mom was still there, watching, not concerned, not defensive, just observing. It's a cool-off space, she added. Like that explained everything. Like that made it reasonable. And here's the part that matters. The part that still bothers me. I didn't argue. I didn't say, that's not okay. I didn't ask why the basement. I just nodded, took Maya's hand, and said, all right, let's go upstairs. Because it was easier. Because I didn't want conflict. Because deep down, something in me already knew this wasn't new. Not for them. Maybe not even for me. After that, things shifted. Subtly, but enough. Maya stopped going near the basement. Not even during the day. If she had to walk past the door, she'd speed up just a little. Like she didn't trust it. And she got quieter. Not dramatically, but enough that I noticed. Less talking at dinner. More time in her room. More thinking before she spoke. Are you okay? I asked her one night. She nodded. Too quickly. I'm fine. But she didn't look fine. She looked careful. And my mom, she kept watching, correcting, waiting. Like she was just looking for the next moment, the next mistake. That's when I started realizing something I didn't want to admit. This wasn't about discipline. This wasn't about helping. This was control. Quiet, consistent, unquestioned control. And the worst part, I was letting it happen right in front of me. So when that night came, when Maya talked back, barely, just a small comment at dinner, and my mom slowly stood up, I felt it immediately, that same tension, that same pattern. We're not doing this again, Diane said. Calm, controlled, final. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She just turned and looked directly at the basement door, and this time, I knew exactly what was about to happen. That's when it hit me, this wasn't a punishment. It was a system, a routine. Something they had done enough times that it didn't even feel extreme to them anymore. And the scariest part, they weren't hiding it. Dinner had gone quiet the second Maya spoke. It wasn't even anything major, just a small, tired response. I I said I'd do it later. That's it. No yelling, no attitude. Just a 10-year-old being a little frustrated. But in my mom's world, that was enough. The air shifted instantly. You could feel it. Like everything tightened at once. My dad stopped chewing. Didn't look up, but he paused. And my mom, she set her fork down slowly. Too slowly. That kind of controlled movement that tells you something's already decided. We're not doing this again, Diane said. Her voice was calm, flat, but final. Maya froze. You could see it in her shoulders. That immediate regret. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't mean. But my mom was already standing. Have you ever watched something happen and realize halfway through that no one's gonna stop it? That's what this felt like, because I was right there. And still, I didn't move. My mom reached for Maya's arm. Not violently, not aggressively, but firm, unarguable. Come on, she said. And Maya resisted, but only a little. Not pulling away, just trying to stay where she was. I said, I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. My dad stood up then, not to stop it, to help. That's when something inside me dropped. Because this wasn't one person overreacting. This was coordinated. He walked ahead of them, straight to the basement door. And without a word, he opened it. No hesitation, no discussion, just routine. I remember staring at that door, the darkness inside already visible from the top step. That same flickering bulb casting uneven shadows down the stairs. And suddenly, I wasn't just seeing it as a basement. I was seeing it the way Maya saw it. Closed, cold, endless. Please, Maya said, her voice smaller now. I said, I'm sorry. My mom didn't respond. She just guided her forward, step by step, until they reached the door, and then she pushed her inside. It wasn't dramatic. That's what makes it worse. No shouting, no struggle. Just a quick practice motion. The door slammed shut, hard, and immediately, click. That sound hit differently this time. Because now I understood this wasn't a threat. It wasn't a one-time reaction. It was procedure. Just for a bit, my mom said, turning away already, like the situation was handled. Finished. I looked at her face, really looked, and what I saw, it wasn't anger. It wasn't frustration. It was calm, controlled, certain. That's what scared me the most. Then the light switch, click, darkness, complete, immediate. And that's when Maya broke. Mom, her voice came through the door instantly. Sharp, panicked. It's too dark. I felt it in my chest. That instinct, that immediate, overwhelming urge to move, to fix it, to stop it. But again, I didn't, because my parents didn't react, not even a little. My mom just sat back down, picked up her fork, started eating again. My dad followed like nothing had happened, like there wasn't a child crying in the basement. And suddenly, I felt like the only person in the room who understood how wrong this was. Mom, please. Maya's voice again, muffled now, smaller. My hands were shaking, not visibly, but enough that I noticed when I reached into my pocket. This wasn't just discipline. This wasn't just strict parenting. This was something else, something that had been happening long enough to become normal. And that thought, It changed everything. Because if this wasn't the first time, then how many times had I missed? I pulled out my phone, slowly, carefully, like any sudden movement might draw attention. Who do you call in a moment like that? Not the police, not yet. Not without understanding what you're dealing with. Not without proof. But I knew someone who would understand immediately, someone who wouldn't brush it off. Jordan, social worker, we'd known each other for years. And more importantly, he knew what to listen for. I stepped slightly away, turned my back just enough, and dialed. Behind me. Mom, I don't like it. Maya's voice cracked again. The phone rang once. Twice? Then, hey. I cut him off immediately. Don't say anything, I whispered. My voice barely audible. A pause, then silence on the other end. He understood. I need you to stay on the line. I swallowed and just listen. Behind me, my parents continued eating. Forks against plates, quiet, normal, like none of this existed. Please, it's too dark. Maya again, softer now, less energy. I closed my eyes for a second, let it sink in, let him hear it, all of it, because this wasn't just about stopping it anymore. This was about proving it, understanding it, exposing it. A few seconds passed. Then Jordan's voice came through. Low, controlled, but different. Alyssa, a pause, heavy, careful. How long has this been happening? And just like that, I realized something that made my stomach drop even harder than before. I didn't know. I didn't have an answer for him, and that was the worst part. Because what kind of mother doesn't know that? What kind of mother misses something like that happening to her own child more than once? I stayed completely still, phone pressed to my ear, but my mind was racing. How long? Jordan's question didn't just sit in the air, it dug in. Because now I was replaying everything. Every quiet moment. Every time Maya hesitated. Every time she avoided the basement door. And suddenly, those weren't random anymore. They were patterns. Behind me, my parents kept eating. Fork, plate, silence. Like the sound of Maya's voice didn't even exist to them anymore. Mom, her voice again, but softer now, weaker. That's when something shifted in my chest. Because earlier, she was scared. Now, she sounded tired, and that terrified me more. I turned slightly, looking at the basement door. Just a plain wooden door, closed, still. But now it felt heavier, like everything happening behind it was pressing outward. Jordan spoke again, quieter this time. Alyssa, you need to get her out of there. I swallowed. I know, but I hadn't moved yet. Why? Because my mom was still sitting right there. Because my dad was still pretending none of this was happening. Because some part of me, deep buried, automatic, was still that kid who didn't challenge them. And that realization, it made me sick. Mom, this time, it was barely above a whisper. I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped forward, one step, then another. The sound of my movement must have caught my mom's attention because I heard it. Her fork setting down again, slowly. Alyssa, just my name, but it carried weight. I stopped for half a second, not because I wanted to, because it was instinct. Years of it. Then I kept walking. Don't. Her voice was sharper now, still controlled, but there it was, that edge. I turned to look at her. Really look. And for the first time that night, I didn't see authority. I saw resistance. Open the door, I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. She needs to calm down, Diane replied. Like this was reasonable. Like this was still under control. She's 10. The words came out before I could stop them. A pause. The air tightened again. Behind me. Mom, please. Barely there. That was it. That was the moment. Everything lined up at once. My childhood, that basement, the silence, the rules, the way I learned not to question things. And now it was happening again, right in front of me. To her, no, I said. And this time, it wasn't quiet. I turned fully, walked straight to the basement door. Alyssa, my dad said, finally speaking. A warning, low. I ignored him. My hand reached the handle. Cold, familiar. Don't do this, my mom said. But now, there was something different in her voice. Not calm, not controlled, uncertainty. I tightened my grip, and for just a second, I hesitated. Because I knew what this meant. The second I opened that door, there was no going back. No pretending, no keeping the peace. Everything would change. Behind me, my parents, still watching in my ear, Jordan, silent, listening, and behind the door, my daughter, waiting. Mom, that whisper again, faint. That was enough. I turned the lock, click. And in that moment, everything broke. The lock gave way with a soft click. Not loud, not dramatic, but final. I didn't hesitate this time. I pulled the door open immediately. The smell hit me first, stale air, dust, something cold and closed in. The kind of air that doesn't move. And then I saw her. Maya was curled up on the floor near the bottom of the stairs. Not even on the steps anymore. Just down there, small, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. Maya. My voice broke the second I said her name. She looked up at me, eyes wide, unfocused for a second, like she didn't recognize where she was. And then, Mom. That word hit harder than anything else that night. I rushed down the steps, dropping to my knees beside her. Her skin was cold. Her hands were trembling. I've got you, I said quickly, pulling her into me. I've got you. I'm right here. She grabbed onto me instantly, tight, like she thought I might disappear if she didn't hold on hard enough. It was too dark, she whispered into my shoulder. I know. I didn't look back right away. I couldn't, because the second I did, this would turn into something else, something bigger. But I heard them, footsteps behind me, slow, controlled. You're overreacting. My mom's voice, still trying to hold on to that same tone, that same control. That's when I stood up, still holding Maya, and turned. No, I said. And this time, there was no hesitation left. No, I'm not. There was a pause, a long one. You locked her in the dark, I continued. She was scared, she was crying, and you sat there like it was nothing. It is nothing, Diane replied. Flat, certain. That answer, it didn't shock me anymore. Not after everything. She needs to learn, she added. You used to sit down there too. And there it was. The thing that had been sitting just under the surface all night. I stared at her. You did this to me? It worked, she said simply. Behind me, Maya tightened her grip around my neck. That was the moment everything became clear. This wasn't new. This wasn't sudden. This was a system that had been in place for years, passed down, repeated, justified, and it wasn't going to stop unless I stopped it. I adjusted Maya in my arms and reached into my pocket with my free hand. Pulled out my phone, still in the call. "Jordan," I said, "steady. I'm taking her out of here." "Good," he replied immediately. "You need to leave. Tonight." "I am." My mom's expression shifted slightly. Not fear, not guilt, just irritation. "You're being dramatic," she said. "Where are you even going to go?" That question would have stopped me a few hours ago. That question used to matter. It didn't anymore. Anywhere but here. I didn't pack much, didn't explain further, didn't argue, because there was nothing left to argue about. Within 15 minutes, I had Maya in the car, still shaking, still quiet. We drove in silence at first. Streetlights passing over us in intervals, light, dark, light, dark. And every time it went dark, I felt her tense slightly. "It's okay," I said softly. "I'm right here." We ended up at a small motel off the highway. Not ideal, but safe, and that was enough. That night, Maya didn't let go of my hand. Not once. Even in her sleep. The next morning, everything started moving fast. Jordan made the report. Not optional, not delayed. Immediate. Within 48 hours, Child Protective Services was involved. Interviews, questions. Details I had to say out loud for the first time. How many times? I don't know. That answer followed me through every conversation, every form, every explanation, but Maya knew not exact numbers, but enough. She said it helps you think, Maya told them quietly. And just like that, it was documented, clear, undeniable. My parents were contacted, investigated. My mom didn't change her stance. Not once. "It's discipline," she told them. "It's controlled, it's temporary." No remorse, no hesitation. My dad, he barely spoke, just like always. In the end, they weren't arrested, but they were formally warned, documented, flagged. And for me, that was enough, because I wasn't going back. Not after seeing it clearly, not after breaking out of it. A few weeks later, I found a small apartment, 1 bedroom, tight budget, thin walls, but no locked doors, no silence that felt wrong, no fear of what might happen if someone made a mistake. Maya started therapy. Slowly, carefully. She still didn't like the dark, not even a little. One night, a storm knocked the power out. Everything went black instantly. And I felt her panic before she even said anything, and her breathing changed. Her grip tightened. "I've got you," I said immediately. Pulling her close. "It's okay, I'm right here." We sat there together in the dark, but this time it felt different. Because she wasn't alone, and neither was I. "You're not going back there," she whispered. "Never," I said, and I meant it, because some doors, once you open them, you don't ever close them again.
So tell me, was that discipline or something far darker, hiding in plain sight?